MNCs, they have a global mandate for, say, in the next 5 years to turn green. So even if you are giving the physical infrastructure for a 500 megawatt campus, until and unless your power is green, nobody is going to contract with you. So these ESG compliances, the what percentage of your power is green, whether you have planned for that, this from a you can say flexibility in terms of that today you might not be requiring, say, a liquid cooling kind of a thing, but whether your facility, if tomorrow a customer comes and he wants a setup, whether you have the design, you can say, adherence to it. These are the, you can say, the key points that you should keep in mind.
Um, uh, Again, similar question. A question on a similar point. Now we talk of these, requirement to scale and having these facilities to have, to provide larger capacities to customers when they actually need it, especially with AI coming in. And this is the question to both Jolly and Parag. Um, there's this whole concept of a data center park, which has been proposed by the government in the data center policy, which is still draft. It's not been implemented. Do you think that something like that, a concept like that, will bring in a lot more efficiencies from a cost perspective? And will customers prefer being in a data center park where probably their competitors are also in the same, in the same park or just next to them probably? So more from a data center park perspective, I would like to have your cost management perspective and customer perspective. Parag, you can go first.
So from cost management perspective, the kind of data center parks or whatever we are talking about might help in having a better supply chain management. We might have the better infrastructure available. It may reduce the cost, but it's for the future. As we speak, all the data centers you can see as a scattered locations. But for the data center park, I believe there will be some cost reduction, not necessarily a significant one, but still we will have a better infrastructure available. We'll have a better supply chain management. We will have better labor strengths available. All these coming into picture, we might have a cost reduction happening. Having said that, again, like I'll go back to what I said earlier, plan the cost. Wherever you are building it, you need to plan the cost. You need to have a better plan. You need to have the futuristic designs in place. You can cost it right on day one to have a better cost efficiency once you start building it. So apart from that, you plan it, your supply chain management. Let's say your current requirement is 5 megawatt, but going forward, you are having something for 50 megawatts. You plan your entire supply chain management accordingly on day one. Once you start construction, it should not happen that the material is available, your site is not ready, then your cost efficiency goes for a toss. If you are ready with your plan, if you are executing according to your plan, you will have a better cost management available on site.
Jolly?
Yeah. I have a little controversial view here. What I feel is that customers need to be educated. They really do not know what they want. If you look at any server, the PlayTrack specification, it says you can host that server to about 38 degrees also. But if you look at the traditional mindsets that the customers carry, they still will mandate you to run the data centers at 20 plus or minus 2 degrees. Now, these are the points that help you bring in efficiency in terms of how you can, make that same, investments that you've made to build your capacities for customers to host more. So that's one point of view. The other thing that we have to see is that what Rohan just mentioned, that hyperscalers are building large facilities within the city. Now, to this, in my view, there is another angle. I don't know if you guys have heard about the US Cloud Act. Most of these companies, which emerge out of the US, have a mandate by the US government to store or give back data whenever they require. This was, I think, this stemmed from the Snowden incident. So from that point of view, I think they need to be in the heart of the city because that's where the international cables are landing. But if you look at us as Indians, as nationals who run their enterprises workloads, and specifically the organizations or the end consumers are within the country, we do not require too much of an internet. The interconnect, the the internet exchanges itself can do a whole lot of job for us to run the businesses. So there's a whole lot of education or a mindset change that we need to do for these customers, for both of us. I mean, for us as enterprises to build solutions which are suitable to them. We're able to scale from the same premises that we have. And the other is also protecting our own data rights, right? So like now we have a lot of emphasis on the DPDP, the IT Act, how we are going to protect the sovereignty of our data. And sovereignty is just not about data. It's also about how technologically you are, able to be able to support the customer's workloads, how, able teams you have who are setting up the support systems for your customers. What are the, these processes of support that you've put in place? So operationally, how efficient you are, how sufficient you are to be able to support the customer workloads. So from that point of view, instead of like just running into the rat race of adding more power, adding more advancements, I think what we need to understand is how, what is it that our customers are running? How is it that we can change their mindsets? How is it that we can protect our own country's data at a national interest level?
And you want to add?
Yeah, just wanted to add on the cost management perspective here. Though we are saying we'll be having data center parks, we might have a better cost management, cost-effective solutions and all that. Having said this, unless and until we are having a better infrastructure available, the cost is not going to get reduced. Like Rohan mentioned, if we are not having electricity available, we are not having fiber connection available nearby the data center park, the cost is not going to reduce. So to start with, to have a better cost management, of course, the government is coming up with multiple policies. At the same time, they need to be ready with this infrastructure to have a better cost management as well.
And Jolly, just for the sake of our audience, where are customers looking to host their applications, or do they have, where as in which cities, in India, or do they have like preferences that, okay, these kind of applications I will host here and the rest of the applications I'm hosting, say in a different city, or my backup can be in this city, but my, main primary has to be in one city. Just give a sense to the audience as to, which cities are being really preferred by customers.
So traditionally, customers wanted their own servers, their data very close to them. I think there was a typical CIO mindset that I should be in control of what I'm operating, what services I'm giving to my organization. But slowly that mindset has changed and they've gone in for a colo space or a hosted space or on a cloud solution. But from operation point of view, they still prefer that where the skills are available to support these workloads, that's the place that they would want to be. So I think typically if you look at it, Mumbai, Bangalore, Chennai, Hyderabad, where the technical acumen is dense, these are the places where customers are preferring. The other aspect to it is, I think what drives their decision is that if they're hosting their DC in one location, at least what they are putting the workloads for disaster recovery or business continuity is in a different seismic zone. These are the drivers that decide their decisions. Today, an interesting concept, which is another, which is emerged, is that there are certain applications which require to be closer to their end consumers. So the edge computing came into picture. So these are different drivers of how customer decides where their workloads should be. But typically, if you look at the environment today, they're not boxed into a single rigid infrastructure, environment. They want the critical workloads to be in a certain enterprise grade environment. They're okay with non-mission critical applications to go on cloud. There are certain, I told you, like certain can go on edge. So all these aspects of how they want to fuel their business demands, how they want to serve their end customers well, where they're able to give seamless experience to their customers. These are the business drivers for taking these decisions.
So, I'll give a very simple concept on the edge compute part. And fundamentally, anything that you need a deeper penetration of, any kind of service, any kind of technology or anything that you want a deeper penetration of, the most cost-effective approach has been a hub and spoke model. Correct? You take anything, take a courier service, take a fuel distribution service, take whatever service you want. And the most cost-effective model is an hub and spoke model. You create a hub and then you have spokes and then you create sub-hubs and sub-spokes and stuff like that. Data, and like how Rohan was pointing out, that the problem is there's no cable that has come out there. And let's say you go to the Tatas or the Airtels or the Reliances and say, okay, get me, backhauls there of gigs and gigs of this thing, the cost is too high. Right. So one is the proximity of the enterprise customer of where my data center is. Can I go in 30 minutes or 20 minutes and reach out and touch my machines because those are mine sitting out of someone else's premises? So that's one. Second, as Rohan said, whether the connectivity is there and the power is available, correct? However, in my personal opinion, near future and an upcoming future, you will have a lot moving into the tier 2 and tier 3 cities, for the sole reason that now the land is becoming very, very costly in a city like Mumbai, or it's becoming and come what may, whatever you do, eventually a customer wants his service to be cheaper, plain and simple. Up, you do whatever technology, what you want to do, usko sasta chahiye man. As simple as that. Huh? Performance guarantee, of course. No performance, so you'll go and switch into someone else. But mal sasta. That's the core ideology everyone wants. Correct. It's just going to make a lot of sense to go away from the core cities, figure out ways to reduce the cost. Land costs away from the city are much, much lower. Correct. Probably power and data will be one. And like you said, the data center parks can help this thing work out very well. I don't know how many of you know something called as district cooling. There's a whole cooling infrastructure that is there for a whole data center park, sitting out of one corner of the whole land parcel. Let's say it's a 50-acre land parcel and you have 20 data center providers in that land parcel, right? There's one district cooling hub sitting outside, which is supplying water to all the buildings, right? So these are the ways where you can reduce the cost, and that data center park could now sit in Rajasthan or wherever, and now you have the telecom and the power companies compelled to come and support it. Why? Because there's 50 acres, there's 200 megawatts, and you're bound to be there. And in a diverse country like India, it's really hard to stay only in the 6 or 7 cities that we have, as we call as the churners of economy: Mumbai, Pune, Bangalore, Hyderabad, Chennai, Kolkata, stuff like that, Noida. So those cities and beyond, you will have to think to really make this an industry. Otherwise, like we said yesterday, there was an event at CIN that they were saying we are still far away from in the US, in the Western countries, the power consumption percentage of data centers is about 4 or 5% of the total power generated in the country, right? In a country which is much less populated than India. Data ka source is only one: population. There's literally no other source that can generate data, right? However you circle it, will be generated from a human being, right? And those countries are far lesser populated, 1/3 or 1/10 the population of our country, but their power percentage is at 5%. We are still under 2. So most certainly there will be immense investment in the data center infrastructure, because that's what is going to be the need. And sovereignty of data, the green solutions that you are going to bring in, how are you powering it up, all of that. And it has to move out of the likes of Mumbai and Chennai. It will have to. You'll have to play in better cables. You will have to make it robust and move it out. And if you're doing modular, well, I did not mean modular with respect to only horizontal expansion. You can have modularity in vertical expansions also. It's just that how can you make it cheaper? That is all. If you invest on day one, it's bound to happen that you want to put your ticket size so that you can recoup your investment. It's just natural. You're not going to put in the money and just, okay, I'll still give it at a cheaper cost and lose money on my side. You're going to figure out a way to recoup that, correct? And that way, it's better you invest less and recoup better and then grow as the whole industry moves. It's a needle mover rather than a business house. A needle mover of the whole country, the whole economy, or the whole industry.
If the government really works on it. Yeah. Rohan, my second last question. Right now, like we spoke, it's the key cities, Mumbai, Bangalore, Chennai, Pune, Hyderabad, Noida, very small extent, Kolkata. What are the on-ground challenges when you're building a data center in terms of labor, government permissions, getting land, skills? She spoke of skills more from an operational standpoint, but even labor, right? Skilled labor, skilled, unskilled labor. These are all like real issues which can absolutely delay your go-to market. So which are the cities which are easy? What are the challenges in different cities? I mean, you have data centers in, most of these cities. So what are the challenges that we face on ground?
See, from the compliances or land acquisition and everything, data center for the earlier part, 50% of the life cycle, it's similar to a real estate, a residential or a commercial kind of a project. So land acquisition to licensing to the government officials and interactions with them and getting all the permissions. So those challenges which are say there in the real estate space, those challenges remain the same. In terms of data center, the way the government, the state governments, the central governments, MITI and all those bodies, they have, and realizing the potential that this industry now presents, the whole opportunity, and then as the the potential that it has for the entire country. The data center norms have come in, data center policies have come in on a state level. They are trying to implement it on a national level, single window clearance. So the situation is, you can say, getting better by the day. But still, the timeline and everything, you have to factor that in. Say, when you are, if tomorrow there is a customer who wants a facility ready in an X amount of time, so these minimum environmental clearances and your fire permissions and everything, when you plan a new facility, so all those licensing and everything is there. In terms of labor, while the construction and everything, you can say typical of a normal real estate, those contractors. The good part is that in the last 10 years, there has been so much data center development. So earlier, I remember, say 10 years back, when you, even to a normal, contractor, when you went for a data center construction, it seemed a little bit alien to them, that, we make, say, a commercial building or a residential building, we have laborers for that. But here, the loading is different, or the, your floor to floor height, or some like 10%, you can say the technical specifications are different. But even esteemed contractors and everything, they would take a little bit of time to get used to it or participate in your bids and everything. But now everybody, all good contractors have done enough work in the last, because so many players have come in, so many capacities have been constructed. So you don't find any, difficulties. People know how to build. People know data centers is no, different anything than say a normal commercial building. So from construction point of view, there are no major challenges or hurdles, you can say. The main challenge lies in the MEP, because say a normal commercial residential building, the MEP skill set, say of a contractor or a laborer, is, you can say, what goes in the data center is, you can say, 10 times, 50 times more, the kind of architecture that is required, the kind of services, the entire architecture, you can say, is more, 10 times more complex than a normal office. The firefighting, the cooling mechanism, the electrical, the physical security. So therein, more and more contractors, while there is a limited pool today in each of these, the mechanical contractors, or the, people who are doing the electrical work. You know, and the other major, you can say, the challenge is that while we are talking about, make in India and all these things, major equipments, the lead times and all these equipments, the major data center equipments, you can say 90% of that are still not manufactured in India. So while even if, there is so much we talk about, the growth, and there is so much opportunity, there is so much, you can say, potential in the data center market. But in the last 15, 20 years, even today, you see major chillers, major generators, UPSs, batteries. Apart from one or two Indian companies, nobody has set up a big plant, or nobody has set up that if you want chillers, you can say an Indian manufacturer who meets the hyperscaler or the global customer requirements, technical specifications. The opportunity is immense. But still, you have to rely on, say, a European provider, or a, other Southeast Asian provider to give you all this equipment, and the lead times and everything are like more than 6 months and 4 months and 8 months. So that in where the lead times are more, and the contracted, you can say, the workforce, the kind of ability that you require, those educated, laborers and workforce in the MEP field, and those are quite limited in the country. So planning in, that field, that is the main, you can say, constraint, or it becomes a limited resource in that level.
I think Francis can address that in the next panel. It's the perfect segue for you to take that up. So my last question before we open it up to the audience question, and this is a question for all four of you. India's journey in data centers is the last 5 years. Maybe 2018 it started probably, but the real boom is from 2020, exponential hockey stick growth. If you have to give a rating out of 10 to the quality of infrastructure in India as compared to what the customers are used to in more developed countries like US and Europe, how much will you rate India as?
I think if you look at enterprise workloads, what I believe is that while we've created great capacities for co-location facilities, there is close to about 50 to 60% of workloads that customers still host in their own premises. So if we count those data center spaces, where one area in the office is a server room, which you even can't call a server room, I think the rating drops down drastically to about 4.5 or 5.
That question could be divided into two parts. In one is the quality of the data center as a design, whether we are at par at what the global standards are. I believe we are pretty much, because most of the data centers, Utah's are tier 4 certified, most of the data centers get certified. So that level, I don't see much of a gap. Probably everyone in globally is also at around 8. So everyone, we are also at around 8. But the true inside workmanship that is going, which goes under the floor, which goes in the shaft, which is on the terrace, which is not directly visible to a particular customer, whether we have that figured out in terms of high quality stuff, and it's not the matter that there's no willingness to do high quality work. Most of the times, like, it becomes very hard. You are given less time. Fatafat karo. Then the laborer who actually knows a better way of doing that stuff, because he's been asked to do the 50-60 minute job into 10 minutes. Now he's taken a shortcut approach and he's finished it off in 10 minutes because Malik ne bola 10 minute mein karna hai to karna hai. That's how. So that is where I think the focus of a quality assurance or quality check should be, because that will directly define the longevity of your infrastructure, whether it will last for so many years, whether it will, that's where the quality I still feel is around 5.5 or 6. On the contrary to the more developed countries, because there they give time.
And budgets?
Money, I don't think money anyone should give. पैसा कम ही देना चाहिए साहब. We should not pay more. सब कुछ सस्ता होना चाहिए लाइफ में. I am a very strong believer of that. कुछ भी महंगा नहीं होना चाहिए. There's no use. That's okay. No one is forcing you to take the order. No, nahi jamta mat lo is what you can. No one is forcing you to take that. My point is, everything that has been an extremely large corporation, you pick a Coca-Cola to a Reliance Jio to anything, has only become large by dropping the price. Coca-Cola made his drink cheaper than water. It was world's largest organization for a considerable amount of time. Reliance became the last entrant in the telecom space, became the most dominant force by dropping the price. Price तो कम ही होना चाहिए. There's no doubt about it. कीमत ही कम ही होनी चाहिए. And yet you should be able to deliver quality. Clear. I personally am a very strong believer that
I
you
think,
need to be paid only how much it is deserves. Bas.
I think Reliance's strategy is not to drop the price. It is first to get you used to a free thing and then charge you for it. Yeah.
No, having said that, when we talk about cost, like he said, cost to kami hona chahiye. That's the mantra everywhere. Wherever you go, that's the mantra. But unfortunately, if you seek quality, you need to pay for it. It's not, quality does not come cheap. It will never come cheap. So unless and until you pay for the quality, you will not get the quality. The current, like you mentioned about at what scale we can give marks to Indian infrastructure. And like Jay mentioned, design, we are almost at par. I don't see any challenges over there. The quality of labors is there. It's not that we are not capable enough, but again, it comes back to whether we are willing to pay that extra penny to that particular labor to get the required quality. That's where we are slightly lagging is what I'll feel. So out of 10, I can say 6.5 for the design infrastructure, and rest of the things is around 4.5 to 5.
Like if you look at the skill from India is what goes abroad, right? I mean, there are workers who are here who are building those world-class facilities abroad. So I'm sure skills are never a challenge. It's more about what the customer is willing to pay and how much time he's willing to give you. That's what will derive quality for him.
So I have a, totally different view on this. In the last 2 years, I must have visited, data centers across the US, across Europe, and, Southeast Asian countries. I believe in terms of, if you, ask me to rate Indian data centers, I think out of 10, our data centers are 15, compared to the data centers that they have in. Huh?
I think that'll be yours.
No,
not
no, yours. I'm talking about general Indian data centers, not about, any particular, you can say service provider or anything. If you generally look at the overall, I'm not just talking about the architecture or the, it is about the MEP and entire thing. If you look at the, data centers in US or Europe or, other parts of the world and India, I think the main disconnect is about the definition of data center for Indian customers. And the other thing is the basic, what we discussed just a while back about the two backbones, power and fiber. See, why here we have to go for all this different kind of, N plus N and this and that, and the cost comes up, is because when the data centers over here started, the basic, the lifeline, the power which has to come from the grid, that basic connection was not, that reliability is not there. The power, the fiber cuts, that if the road infrastructure is digging, like every day in Mumbai, like 500 roads are dug up and your fiber is getting cut. That is why this, fiber from 4 directions and, all these, 20, you can say pipes of fiber from all these things. That is why the customers are also hesitant and they ask the service providers that mujhe itana sara redundancy chahiye. You make this so much, your data center has to cater to so much things. If you go to US, even where all these hyperscalers are located, their design parameters are not so stringent. They know that if a power is coming from the main grid, once in a year, okay, for some maintenance purpose, it will go down. Otherwise, the power is going to be there 24/7. So if a generator is there, if a backup is there, even the fuel that is required on site will be just be for 12 hours. They will not ask for anything more because the grid reliability, if they see the report over the last 50 years, and never in the history for the last 50 years has the grid gone down for more than, half an hour during the entire year. So that is the basic infra is there. And the customers are also educated that this is not a hotel. They don't have to stay here overnight. They don't need a fancy place. It is just for a data storage, even if it is 200 kilometers away, even if, the walls are not painted or wallpaper, the reception is not fancy, there are no chandeliers on the top of that. Ultimately, if I'm getting my server or my data is running 24/7, uninterrupted, that is the use of the data center. And I am getting it at a competitive price. Here, we have, taken it to a next level and we have marketed it in a different way that, come to my data center, see it differently, be it in the middle of the city. How does my, data center look and what experience does it gives? Data center is not for that. It is for, as Jolly also mentioned, for your server to run 24/7, even if it is in the middle of the desert. There, the people have accepted it, and that is how the industry norm is. Here, in order to say score points over each other as competitors, as we do for a commercial real estate, whether the building is in BKC or the building is in, say, Lower Parel, the data centers have also become like that, that we want to show off our design. We want to show off our redundancies and everything. As long as the server is running 24/7, there is no other actual requirement that you need to put into the data centers. So we are over designing, we are overspending in the data centers, which is the US companies or the European companies are not doing. Their data centers, if you compare to our data centers, they are much behind even today, the new data centers that are coming up.
So I'm glad we ended on a 15/10 optimistic note. So with that, we'll open up for questions from the audience.
Hello. Hi, my name is Samir Bansali from Asan Building System. First of all, thanks to all the panelists. Fantastic knowledge you guys have give it to us, I have a question. Did ever a data center in India ever thought about using sustainable green, negative carbon footprint, circular economy with the fire rating, insulated panels? And it's made out of natural cellulose and fibers. They thought about it?
So you'll hear a lot about that in the next panel, which Jayashree is moderating, because
Okay.
sustainability is part of that. But still, I mean, I'm happy for the panelists here to speak.
Just for me to, because,
You want to
I just
point it to
wondered if
someone-
you ever thought about using,
point it to someone specific?
anyone can give me answer.
Yeah, there is a demand of thinking of a circular, economy in terms of how green and sustainable you can be.
Right.
Especially suddenly half an acre of land is consuming 100 megawatts of power coming from a thermal power plant, for all you know, because that's what is dominant power source in India. So suddenly the finger pointing is there for a data center industry that please start with coloring yourself green as soon as possible. Okay. But and there is a circular economy angle to it. However, the specific question that you asked about cellulose panels,
agree,
insulated panels, is not something that we have heard of. We've not bumped into that as a requirement. But if you have some product which will pronounce or divert the finger to becoming greener, you should
By
really.
the way, India is the first country
Pardon?
to manufacture that, and we own the patent here in India.
Great. You should push it. I mean,
I
it's not
just
come across.
Yes, I just moved from Los Angeles about 4 years back. And just wanted to, see.
I think sustainability today for India is mostly at a CSR initiative level only. The most that we do is that we exchange our consumed power units with what we buy from green power. And that I think is the only circle available right now.
Mhm.
That and
It's
this
it's
whole,
basically just for sake of it, we are having that CSR activities like, okay, we are consuming so much of power, we need to
No, but
give
it's
back something.
giving all the
That's-
qualities of what it requires. 2 hours fire rating, insulated, like, what we're
again,
talking-
sir, अगर सस्ता होगा पक्का बिकेगा. No doubt. No doubt.
It has to be.
Because the first thing that is coming, like she said, is boss first get us green power. So that's where the main greener aspect is getting pushed first. Get renewable sources of energy
Yeah.
fed to your data center. If
Even-
someone has managed to do that, that's a tick.
Yeah. Even in terms of materials, as you are saying, there are for, green building certifications and everything, there is a
Yes,
requirement. So
LEED, yeah.
people are looking at it.
Yeah.
If any, specific product, as you are mentioning, you have, let us discuss. We can have a look at it. Sure.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. IGBC, yes,
Yeah,
but LEED is
Green building
actually the
certifications and everything.
LEED certified, actually international for. Oh. IGBC also works for India, yeah?
So we do get approached by a lot of people who want to get introduced to data center operators for circular economy related aspects, but that's more on the water and waste management side. But it's still not implemented. Like Jolly said, at the most, it's on the power side as of now. Water and waste management, I think, will be next, but more advanced stuff really needs to come. Okay, so if there are no other questions, I think we can wrap it up.
Thank you, Devi. Can we have, yes, we have a small memento for you. Can I have Captain Edwin Saldana and Indrajit Saudi on stage? Group photo. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Before we start the next panel discussion and end the event for the evening, could we have the Dormakaba AV, please?
Humans are social beings. We create buildings and cities, places where individuals come together and build. Humans are social. Humans are social beings. We create buildings and cities, places where individuals come together and build communities. These are places to connect, stay, and love. Places to care for the generations that came before us while welcoming the next. Places to let our children grow and learn. To experience amazing moments, to step into new adventures. We are where our communities come together, places across town, or across the world, places that matter most to all of us. We provide safety, security, and sustainability to these places for people to move seamlessly and shape their lives. This is what our societies require. This is what has driven us for more than 150 years. This is why our customers put their trust in us. For every place where we learn or rest, for every place where we get inspired, create memories, for every place where we build a career or start a new chapter, for every place that shapes a community. For every place that matters.
We now come to the second panel discussion for the day. I would like to invite on stage Jagat Pandya, Head HSC Sterling and Wilson Data Centers, who's an accomplished electrical engineer and enhanced his expertise with a post-diploma in industrial safety and an environmental management system certification from Gujarat. He is also certified in NIBOSH International General Certificate alongside ISO Integrated Auditor Certification for ISO 14001. Ian Goldsmith, Global Head of Sales, Royal Buriram International BV, joined Buriram in 1993 and has worked in the architectural consultancy, security consultant space. Now working for his parent company as Global Head of Sales based in Netherlands. He leads the global sales team. Pramod Deshmukh, Country Head for Hyperscale Data Center, Design and Implementation, Ramboll Engineering India. Has been in the IT data center and cloud industry since past 30 years. Ramboll India has been the designer of Mumbai's Atal Setu 28-kilometer sea link, being the primary structural designer for the entire bridge. Chris Thomas, Associate Project Architect, leading the business of critical facilities at Gensler. Worked on data centers within the APME region and especially in India. Kunjumon Francis is the head of data center solutions and services in Siemens India. With an experience more than 35 years, which includes India and international exposures, Mr. Francis is exceptionally adept at formulating strategies, managing P&L and managing key accounts. That's it. I'll have them. No, Francis, sit here. So our topic for the day is the future of data centers, innovation, security, and design sustainability. That includes a whole lot of things, So we are going to talk basically about sustainability, security, and innovation. Pramod, in terms of sustainability, what are some of the ways data centers can adopt to curtail their energy costs?
What can a data center? First of all, thank you very much for inviting me here today and giving Ramboll a opportunity to present and talk. So how data center can curtail their cost. So this has been a question right from day one, and because data center always put very aggressive target on themselves, they were the first one in the industry to put a measuring parameter called PUE, and based on that, they decided to they started measuring their performance. So now, what are the methods of curtailing the cost? The method of curtailing cost could be, first one is monitoring. We need to, in a data center, I'm sure many of them earlier speaker and there are data center operators that are doing. First is monitoring. And what are we monitoring? IT load, the IT, how many servers are running, which are performing, which have high load, which are not loaded, what kind of virtualization has been running, how many servers I can shut it down or put it into sleep mode if the load is low. If you can monitor, then you can, and measure, then you can also control. So those kind of infrastructure monitoring software technology should be available in a data center to curtail your cost. Then comes the most of the data center in earlier panel discussion, what I heard, I was listening, most of this data center design and implementation is happening at the peak load. If a particular chip has a load of say 300 watt, then the entire calculation is around that 300 watt. The server will be 5 kilowatt, and then the whole cooling is provided for 5 kilowatt. And that is actually not really the case. If you look at the architecture of AI, artificial intelligence, you must have seen, just a simple YouTube, if you open and say, okay, let me learn what is AI. They will show you a number of dots. And each dot is connected to another dot, and this dot is connected to another dot. Now, what is that? Each of them is a CPU or is an NVIDIA chip or whatever they call today, connected to another one. Now, the workload get divided and the workload get progress. Now, when one node is working, the others are either could be waiting or could be doing something else, which may not be so much power consuming. So, right, because I'm from Intel and I've been involved in right at the chip level. No CPU ever performs at a 100% power load. In 1 second, if you split it into a million and another 1,000 of that, a microsecond, a chip is generally resting for 50% of time because there is so many other things happening in a computer. It is fetching data from the memory and it's waiting. Then it executes certain set of instruction, and then again it's waiting. So what is happening today is when we talk of megawatt, we are all over calculating and we are designing at the peak load. And that's where, a lot of cost is also going. So if you ask me a question, if somebody can predict eventually what will be the average load or what will be 10% or 15% above average load, if you start with that, you will save a lot of cost. And that's what I would like to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Pramod. Coming to you, Chris, everything basically everything begins at the design stage. If you design right, you can build right. So what are some of the factors, since you have experience in designing data, what are some of the critical factors today that need to be kept in mind when designing a data center?
So thank you for inviting me here with this esteemed panelists. I'm coming from Gensler. I design buildings, data centers especially. So looking at factors, primarily I would say, I started in 2018 when the client told me that these are the spaces, give me a building. And I had to figure out, it's like a puzzle, to be honest. So I had to figure out where each room goes and how the flow happens, how can it be more efficient and optimized. So that's where we started designing data centers. And today we have so many options in terms of designing. We have to look at a robust brief. So the brief becomes the start point where the client gives us a direction to start with. And then we kind of work with the client to explore what is the optimum design for a data center. Because what happens is sometimes there's a lot of chance to get lost during the process. And to meet the technological advances as well, we need to design and be able to give the client back what he wants. So that's where we start. And obviously, there is a level of trust required between the customer, the client, and us as designers, because we need to understand what the client exactly wants and what the client is trying to provide to the customer. So that helps us in turn customize and tailor make a data center for the client, allowing for them to be them to plan more around phasing, future planning, so they can build less, they can save up on money, and they can also be prepared for the next technological advances that come onto one of their sites. So that's where we start. Obviously, there are other factors that we look into, uh, which are like what are the phasing strategies that the client would want? Because sometimes we do phasing within the site, within the building, and also looking at macro to micro perspective for the overall campus. So macro being, what's the perimeter security like? What's the building security like? And going back into the building, into looking at what are the configurations that we're looking at? What are the rack capacities we're looking at? So all of these kind of form the brief for us to start with. And then we kind of work towards a fully fledged, completely coordinated with all stakeholders. So it's important that we also coordinate with all stakeholders, and all stakeholders have the same say in the design of the building, because every member in a DC sector is so involved in the DC building design that it's extremely critical to understand what each stakeholder is thinking and is wanting from the DC.
That's interesting. Coming to you, Jagat. Jagat, I mean, Sterling and Wilson has built so many data centers. You know, you have an entire vertical on for it. How do you look at, because you know sustainability is one of the most critical factors for you. So, what is your idea take after that? After Chris has spoken about design, what is your take on maintaining its sustainability?
So, thank you first of all to give us opportunity to represent Sterling and Wilson data center here. We are probably the only EPC company today in India whose only business is data center. So it is very good to be here. That is the first thing I would like to address, and thanks all of you. Secondly, coming to the sustainability piece, I am highly disagree with the what have been discussed so far. See, we have the customers which we are working with are willing to pay the price which is required to build the sustainable data center. All are here are very much concerned about the targets which all of them are having, right from starting to 2030 to 2070 for the India. So sustainability and design sustainability is very much part of the data center business. So he can very well address how they are doing the design sustainability aspects, right from the selecting the, you can say, electrical equipment, which has a saving into it, cooling systems. So all these are very, very much part of the system of the designing. Some gentleman has come up and said that he has some product. So see, boss, having a product and saying is something, and getting certified is something else. So we have a global eco-labeling network. It is called GEN. In India, CII and Green Pro are the organization which has a joined hand together, and he's providing a sustainable product. They are giving us a level 1 eco-labeling product. So if you are confident your product is enough, make in India product, which is generally not available for the Indian customer to cater the data center business, just go get your product certified for level 1 eco-labeling network through CIA Green Pro. World of opportunity will open for you. Okay, so this is one of the means whomsoever is doing the products and they say that our product is sustainable. This is the one way you can do. If you go to the Green Pro website, you find number of products which are sustainable in nature, which can be used in the data center business. There's a point one. This is a part of the this one. Secondly, we are the EPC player who are construction in the data center. And while construction and handing over the data center, there are many aspects of sustainability is come. Okay, right from the selecting equipment to construct the data center, then the water flushing, which we are doing in the pipes. So because of our effort, now Telangana state has made mandatorily, they have added the flushing water quantity of the data centers that has been taken care of. While you do the flushing of HVAC system, there are certain amount of water you are generating. And generally, it was not part of the data center and NOC, which has been given by the environmental department. So Telangana State Pollution Control Board has involved by default in all data center that. So effort is required, help is required, and right approach is required to make it happen. Thanks.
Thank you, thank you. If I had to ask you the expertise that you bring to the table, Francis, for data centers at Siemens, can you expound a little more on your role as to exactly, because Siemens does multiple things, you know? So what is your role that you play for data centers?
First of all, thank you for giving an opportunity to come on the stage, come on to this for this discussion. Siemens always take challenges, and data center pose the maximum challenges in India. Talking about the Siemens contribution or our contribution to this industry, we are primarily an electrical engineering company graduating into a company and now going into a digitalization company. All these things are required for data centers. First and foremost, the data is generated high. The power is required for the data centers. Substations, 400 kV substations are the need of the hour. We structure that substation and we execute the substation requirements. In this panel, the panelist was talking about how can we reduce the time, or how are the OEMs not manufacturing certain equipments in India. The first thing which is required, that is a GIS substation, you can proudly tell that, okay, 90% of the components are indigenously sourced, and we have a manufacturing facilities in Aurangabad in India. So that is the first part. Second is that coming on to the inside the data centers, the MP medium voltage switchgear, the fire security or the automation part of it, that is other expertise we bring into the market. It is definitely the key thing for the data center reliable, silent. But if you don't operate the data center properly, you waste a lot of money in cooling. 30% of the energy which goes into a data center is for cooling. So you need to do the optimization of your cooling. Not a cooling company, but we help the cooling infrastructure in the data center to automate. And we bring the technologies for the cooling. For example, if an Amazon sale is going on at a particular moment, the compute power requirement is high, the cooling requirement is high, and after that, if the sale goes down, the compute power goes down, your cooling requirements goes down. So think of technology that can scale up and scale down with respect to the load you have, so that you can optimize your cooling energy. We do that. Third, coming into the data center space, security is one of the key aspects. And physical security, I think you will watch on to that. Actually, physical security, if some unauthorized entry is there into a data center, it can bring your data center down. So what we do is that we take from the OEMs some of the this thing, and we integrate and we give a full data center solutions for the data center market. Cyber security, with lot of AI going into the data centers. AI is good. It throws a lot of challenge, but then you also need to be careful. It's a wild animal. You have to it. Otherwise, it can create havoc onto your data center operations. So cybersecurity is one of the aspects which you should really look into. We are not into the IT cybersecurity, but whatever equipments which go into the data center, whether it is a sensor, whether it is any of the controllers which go for the automation, everything has to be cyber secured, or you need to be, it needs to be tested properly for